I don't know who wants to start us off.
Well, I can't believe you started the recording after talking about drinking butter, but that'd be a good place to start. So I'll jump in. I have thoroughly enjoyed this one from a standpoint of it is a very practical part of our everyday. We make small talk, and just her kind of twisting the view on it of so many people just kind of, yeah, let's just skip over the small talk, get right to the meat of it. The reality is a lot of times you don't even get to the meat of the conversation unless you made the small talk first. And what it can do to help put other people's at ease. And I think the best version or story example she gave so far was the guy who preps people for heart surgery. And what a job. I can't imagine waking up being like, I can't wait to shave people when I grow up. But that's what this guy does. And he makes sure that he's, he said, you're talking to people who are literally about, going through a very uncomfortable situation of having some dude just shave you down from neck to toes. All right, let's start there. That's strange. But you're doing it because you have to have open heart surgery. You're also probably pretty nervous and other things are going on. And helping being able to make that more or less an enjoyable situation and help people take their mind off the fact that, yes, they're getting shaved down and about to go through a very rigorous surgery just through small talk and helping take their mind off things, how powerful that can be. And, there's, I liked at the beginning there when she gave the different, can you answer yes or no to these different things? And going through that, there was most of them I was able to say yes to, which was nice. And again, that's been a work in progress through the years and can absolutely relate to being a wallflower at different events. And it still comes up from time to time where it's like you go to a social function, you don't know anybody. Like she's talking about very real life situations where you don't know somebody there or you only know the one person who's the host and you're like, great, I'm going to meet all these new people. It's like, yeah, you should like spin it. And how can you open it up? Because the reality is most people there are probably also feeling those same things. So we did get a good laugh this morning as we were reading her example of her conversation with John and the how are you doing? I think I'm about to lose my job. Oh, cheer up. Keep your like as she started just that whole conversation. Like I would love to actually be a fly on the wall to hear and see John's body reaction as she's sitting there, his body language as she's sitting there like, "Oh, cheer up. You don't just want to be a babe in the woods." And she's dropping all this like that's just ridiculous. But overall, the concept of making small talk, how it can be impactful, how it can help people open up, and how you can become more relatable and connect with others, I think is valuable for anybody. I've been sharing some of these takeaways as I've been reading through with my team each of the morning on our kickoffs. I challenge them to use this in their conversations of the what have you been keeping busy with outside of this? And they've all said it has opened people up even more. Like I love that line. If I only got one thing out of this book, it would be that. Just what's keeping you busy with this? It should be as open-ended as that to get people talking and allow you to continue a conversation going down whatever path it is. So I've been enjoying it, especially with what we do. So
I'll jump in real quick. Um, I find this book a little comical because actually one of my biggest pet peeves is small talk. I'm the person who would rather just sit with myself than have some of these painful conversations. Um, Not because I don't enjoy talking to people. I like to get to the meat and potatoes without small talk. And that's why I was laughing so hard at that conversation with John, who's like, I think I'm about to lose my job. Oh, great. Chin up, cheer up. Like, what? That actually drove me a little nuts. And so I was just laughing the whole time. But I do think she's had some great conversation starters in here that I do think I would like to try in my next networking group or anytime I'm, wherever we're next with a lot of people. Um, because of the fact that most people jump to like the immediate, how's that for the weather? Or how was your weekend? And I'm like, cool, it was great because I am going to answer that way because I really don't want to talk about it, right? I want to talk about something a little more impactful or meaningful or, help you solve a challenge that you've got going on in your life. And so, um, yeah, I mean, it's been fun to kind of read her questions and some of the things as far as conversation starters and don't be the person in the room and just don't say anything to anybody because then right that perception on the other side is, oh, they were too arrogant to talk to me, where I've been in that situation too, where I didn't know how to start a conversation and I didn't say anything, and I know the perception was, oh, she was just too good to talk to me, which is not the case by any means. And so yeah, great conversation starters so far with this small talk, and maybe I will overcome my pet peeve through finishing this book.
I think like we said last time was like that they I think that all the books we've been reading lately have just been small reminders of things that we sometimes forget like how to do and like or like just a little kick in the butt for little things that we may have left out or just put off because we think small talk or whatever is not something we want to do. So like I can gab. I'm sure that you've all realized that. And I've always been in a customer service based role for pretty much my entire adult life. So I worked for American Express for like 24 years and from in various roles, with the last couple of roles being in executive offices. I worked directly with the CEO and his team and was part of the team and then kind of went back and forth to Fort Lauderdale to kind of help train their executive staff. So it's like everything was always customer service based. And so one of the things that she talks about in here, which I always find interesting, is that when you talk to people, people will always give you clues about something they want you to ask about. Like they will tell you what they want to talk about. And so if you're not listening, you're not going to pick up on it, right? So like that's something that I've always have tried to pay attention to, like those little details. Like people used to throw, like people on the phones used to always throw like, oh, well, tomorrow's my birthday and this card's not working. They're like, and they would totally skip over the birthday thing and then get to the card thing. And so there's little things that people throw out all the time. So this was just a reminder to kind of slow down and listen as opposed to like always being ready to kind of you can talk over somebody really quickly or like not to let them finish when they can really be about to explain what you might have thought what they were what you were about to say. And so for me, I tend to like talk before my brain catches up. And so it's a reminder of just to slow down. I like the examples that she uses. The one thing that's really funny is like I've just moved into an apartment building like 2 years ago. I haven't lived in an apartment in over 20 years. So it's my first time being in like a community type of thing. And I find it really difficult to make small talk with these people in the elevator. It's the most awkward situation. I don't understand why it's so awkward, but so I'm hoping that I'm going to get little things in it because the elevator ride's maybe 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds, but it is the most awkward ride no matter when I take it, where I take it. I'm like trying to shut the door before they get over there. I'm like, just go to like, hurry up. Or I'll like, oh, you're coming in, I'll hold the door. And they're like, no, it's okay, we'll get the next one. I was like, okay. And like things like that. So I'm trying to get better with like trying to challenge myself to do that because I get stuck in the elevator. You always get stuck in the elevator with somebody you don't want to get stuck in the elevator with. That's what happens every single time. So I too, I like small talk, but I like small talk when I usually know what we're going to talk about or can kind of listen for clues. So again, this is just a good reminder for me to slow down and kind of pay attention a little bit more. So I like this book as well. I think it's another good reminder of things. So good choice.
I was reminded, for some reason, when um, I bought uh, this book. I'm dealing with a little bit of a virus, so I'm a little bit slower today. I apologize. So I don't know where it came from, but wanted to be here today with you guys. Um, I went on, so I'm doing this on Audible. And it's an interesting way to just listen to someone else's experiences rather than a how to or do this or do that. She's actually telling the stories about, how to make small talk. And I was immediately taken from the beginning of the book where she's sitting in the restaurant or the bar with her girlfriend and this guy's looking at her and he's continuing to look at her and they start talking about, hey, this guy's looking at me. Immediately I started thinking about one of my last networking events, where there were these pods of people, groups of maybe 4 to 5 to 6 people standing and talking. And normally what I will do is, just get into, you'll wait and be patient and someone, Justin's talking. So, I'm looking at his name tag. Hello, my name is Justin. And so I'm saying I'm listening and I'm trying to gather information and not trying to overthink it at the same time. What I liked about it is that she confirmed some things and then she affirmed some things about my own behavior in that group setting where and what hit me hard was that you can ask while there's a group dynamic going on, we have a tendency to just button up, zip up, and wait for our turn. And a lot of small talk can be small interjections. You can say, wow, I've been there, or, I do that, or there's just things that you can do. So if your action, so what I came to really think in terms of those affirmations and confirmations, I was able to see where I can improve in the dialogue at the micro level when you're talking individually or it's your turn, especially a lot of these networking groups, people stand around in a circle holding a drink and they think it's round robin. Okay, it's your turn, Lola. Okay, then they look at you like, Ron, what do you do? And you get into these very I would think for some it's extremely uncomfortable to have someone call you out and say, Ron, what do you do? And then everybody's just staring at you at that particular point in time. I'm in the stem cell business or, whatever. That's usually a really good icebreaker. But the point is that we spend a lot of time in our heads, and that is a place that we need to actually lock the front door and lock before we go out the back door, lock it and, turn the sign out to lunch, or because we have to move conversationally. If we're in business, you have to speak. You need to be affable, and you need to be um, not so much on your toes because I have to position myself, but you just have to engage. And that level of engagement means if you notice also that as she speaks through the chapters, she's being vulnerable too. She'll say humorous things, but she's actually laying a little piece out of herself out on the line. And so people will pick up on that. They'll either be totally repulsed and just completely clam up, and they may not be people that you need to talk to. I mean, people that are very difficult to talk to in a group situation or when you're forced to have to talk to them, I'm not saying they're not out there. They are out there. So what she's just doing is giving these really, really great tips to be able to be vulnerable, step outside, lock yourself out of your head, essentially. And yeah, you drop the key, give the key to the next door neighbor and say, I can't get in there right now. I've got to get out of my head so that, because it's a very comfortable place. And then you wind up at the end of the evening or the end of the dinner or the end of the weekend or whatever, and you haven't met anybody and you don't have a relationship even started. And I'm going to land the plane here. I liked the virus is catching up with me, I think. Um, it's it's that ability, as she said, to make the small talk because that's where you meet people. We're almost afraid to make the small talk because that's too trite, or people are going to think, well, it could be a funny line, it could be a sense of humor, it could be sometimes talking about the weather works. I'm not saying it, some people say, I don't want to talk about the weather. Well, better than it's raining. I told people when we went down to Florida, we go down in January and we're thinking of getting sunshine all over our face, and wind up Sunday morning and it's snowing. And I mean, people out here in California think, what? You went to Florida and it snowed? It's like, yeah, it snowed. So little things like that can actually create the entree to better conversation. Loving the book. And Audible's working because I can just sit and think about it, and think about my experiences, and make the integration.
Well, I actually thought of Crystal when I was reading this book because you said that one time that you like books that gives you like the what you got to say, what you got to do, just very practical. And I'm like, oh, Crystal must be loving this book. And then now for you to be like, oh, I don't even like small talk. I'm like, well, now she's really gonna apply this thing and it's gonna work. Um, I like it. It kind of reminded me of how to make friends and influence people a little bit, just with the whole like remembering their name and say it back to them. And one of my favorite tips was when you go to a networking event or with people you've seemingly seen before, or whatever, never say nice to meet you. Just say, hey, nice to see you. Because if you don't, even if you don't remember that you've met them before, they might remember that you have, and you're like, nice to meet me. Like we met a month ago. What's going on, you know? And you never want to assume that that they remember you either. So you just say again, like, hey, it's me, Deborah, or me, Lola, whatever she was saying in the thing. Just always say your name back to them. And even when I read How to Make Friends and Influence People, one of the things that stuck to me from that book was to remember people's names. But then the way that this book says it, like, hey, a lot of people when they introduce themselves, they're kind of just waiting to reply. They kind of zone out or whatever. So when you miss their name, because like a lot of the times we miss their name, just be honest. Don't pretend that you heard it and then try to be like, what did she say her name was again? Like just like, hey, I missed it or whatever. So those little time kind of tips like that. Um, I was like, yeah, you know what? I guess you can. And even the whole, um, because I was reading, I mean, I read ahead a little bit, but whatever. Um, um, Let me just circle back, I guess, to just giving those kind of, and even when they say like, hey, my name's, you know, Chris Merrick or whatever. But then I only started calling you Merrick because Jay was calling you Merrick back then, right? But then even in the book, it was like, address them how they told you their name was, right? Hey, I'm Michael, so and so, so and so. Don't call him Mike. Don't call her Susie if she said Susan, you know? Um, I'm the exception. You guys can call me Lola. A lot of people don't even know my government name anymore. So you guys can just do that. But yeah, no, I really like it. It's super simple. The rules are easy. I love the little blurb about how you have to take on your responsibility in the conversation. Like if you're just showing up places and kind of leaving that responsibility on other people, like you're low-key selfish. Like take on Lolita works too. Lolita works too. um you have to take on your load of the conversation so that another person doesn't feel like oh I because that person, whoever you're leaving the load on, could be the person starting the conversation every other time, right? So if you're walking up to them and you're just kind of letting them take the load on of the conversation, they're like, ah, here I go again. Like, can somebody take the load off of me for once? And then Justin, you said something about like, oh, you have to listen to people because they usually say like hints of things they want you to talk about. I really hate that. I really hate that. I like when I was in high school, there was people to be like, um, they really wanted me to ask them like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Like, just tell me what's wrong. Like, why do I have to pry for the answer? I used to hate that so much. Um, and I don't know, I guess I'm getting better at it now because I do consider myself like a hybrid. I was more of an introvert before I started working for Jay, and I just remember, I think I told him this a long time ago. I used to hate talking to people, making conversations, calling people, asking questions like, "Hey, I need this." I hated that. And then he was like, "Well, you're gonna have to because you represent me, so you have to really be out there." And I remember the first time that I it clicked in my mind that okay, I really have to start kind of doing like being out there and doing things for myself. Wasn't even actually at a work event. I was at the movies with my friend, and they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the food. You go get the seats." And I was like, "What? You want me to walk into this theater by myself and go find these seats in the dark?" Like I was standing outside the little area right before you find the seats, and I was like, "You got this. You got this. You can do it. You can do it." Like hyping myself up, and I was like, "You know what? Jay needs these seats now. I'm gonna go get them." And then I just walked around the corner and like pretended it was like a work thing because for work I could, but not like my personal life. Whatever. All that to say, I can do it. If I can do the small talk, I can, bring it on. But my preference is to, be by myself in the corner. Because even someone like Justin, I talk to Justin probably more than anybody any day. I never text him good morning, how's your week? I never do. He always does. I'm so sorry, Justin. Because I'm working, right? We're in my mind, I'm just like, what do you need for work? Like if you need something for work, I'm here, send it to me. I never do the small talk with him or anybody in terms of like, oh, how was your weekend, Justin? Good morning.
That's not true. You'll send me a message like midday and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to say good morning. And I'm like, well, it's good evening now. But yeah, good morning works too.
I'm trying, I'm trying. I even did the
Yes,
little
you are.
thing at the front of the
I
book.
love you, Lola.
I love you too. I even did the thing at the front of the book, the yes or no or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when I go back, I'm like, there's a little bit more no's than there is yeses. Like, I probably should get better at that. But yeah, no, I'm really liking it. I love that it reminds me of the how to make friends and influence people. And then the tips, like, they're so simple and basic, but it's just like, you know what? That's true. And if you apply it like more consistently, you probably get better, obviously, results out of it. But yeah, I like it.
I think we became pros about that at Destin, huh? You
I
were you
think
were pro small
Arlene, I
talk.
haven't heard from you, Arlene. Not to put pressure.
He has spoken. I will obey. My friends are calling you the Godfather now. Just saying. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I took some notes. So let me see. The winning at the small talk worksheet. I'm just like Lola. I answered yes to all of it, but and it's great to start the small talk. But for me, I'm not good at maintaining a level of continuity in it where it leads to a follow up and a close. If that
That's
makes
the ADD.
Yeah, but that's not like I don't want need to close people at the first meeting, but it's like it does flow later on when you meet the person later to keep that conversation going. So I have that. Casual conversations, I'm like borderline pro. Like I can totally start a conversation with anybody. Because and the fun fact that she said in the book was like casual conversations, like whether you're introvert or not, they happen a dozen times a day, like all the time. But whether or not we take advantage of it is kind of interesting. So I kind of like to just say hi to everybody and just see what happens, right? There's kind of a less structure in how I kind of just am friendly. I think the section where she talked about like page 27 about the hairstylist, because we really do talk. Like I'm like Lola before your job with Jay, before hairdressing, I was introverted too, if you can believe it. Like my family, I wasn't really allowed to speak unless I'm spoken to. And the same with my workplace. I worked at a very posh salon with actual royals when I worked in London, and you weren't allowed to speak unless you're spoken to. And so when I actually got into working, it was British London Hairdresser of the Year kind of level. So when we actually did royalties hair, so when I came back to Vancouver, I had to really learn how to talk to people because I need to find out what do you want, right? As a colorist, I can't mess around. So it was all about asking the right questions. So I liked how she gave that list of the two list of questions for like business events and then social, just social casual stuff. And then let me see. I like the comforting thing what she says of like anybody can learn these skills, because you don't wake up in the morning knowing how to chat to people, right? Just like you said, Lola, right? Like we have learned over time that, if Jay talks to you, you have to do the thing, right? You got to kind of get into action. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to have your job anymore. Um, the interesting thing that I picked up another section was the mega trend. It was on high tech, how most people have so much high tech, but most people are longing for high touch. So I feel like I'm a real connector when it comes to just making people feel comfortable in an environment. Um, like I'm a volunteer at the Legion next door, and when new faces come in, I literally will break it down. Now I'll actually just say, hey, how are you? Just real small, basic. Are you a member here? and usually they're not members, so I'll guide them and kind of break the ice that way. And I thought that the observation she said about getting rid of what your mom used to tell you, like don't talk to strangers and don't silence is golden, like all those 4 points that my mom said, all of them to me. So that's probably why I was so mute when I was a kid. Like silence is not always golden, especially when you're in business. Let me see here. What else you say? People need, if when it comes to business, like because we're all in work mode in life, and even just making friends, like people stick with the people that make them feel good. And the other observation that I picked up was that people are desperate, and this is true in hairdressing. I hear it all the time from clients. Right, they're really desperate for like feeling seen and heard. Like in life, we're just so rush around that when you actually have somebody that goes, no, seriously, time out. Like, how are you today? That is very powerful when you share that with somebody, like you see them. Let me see what else. Oh, I like this thing that she said. And remember, even your closest friend was once a stranger, right? So take the risk.
Hold on,
Walk.
mommy. Wait.
Hello.
Go
Oh,
ahead, go ahead.
So take the risk. Walk up to somebody, introduce yourself, like, "Hi, my name is." Or like for you, Justin, like people in the elevator, you could just go, "Hi." Like in Vancouver, at one time I was in the elevator and it was just so uncomfortable, right? There was another guy in the elevator and I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" And he literally blanked me. And I'm like, "Hello?" Because like there's only two of us in the elevator, like kind of rude, whatever. But that was like 1 in 100. Like I'll say hi to people and generally most people are happy. It's that one person that's really weird, right?
Well, that's why I don't do it, because that one instance that happens where they're like, "Wait, you hear me, right? I'm here." I'm like, "Hello."
Human, right?
I feel like those are the times you have to address the awkwardness, right? Like, well, this is awkward. Like, make it really obvious that was an awkward interaction to kind of relieve that weird tension or whatever.
Yeah, like, are you okay?
It's- The excitement's when like you get off the elevator, you're like, finally, I'm done with that awkwardness. But then they get off the same floor as you, and then you're like, oh my God, like what the freak?
You know what? Into that, I'd say, "Oh, great to see you again. How's it going?"
Sounds so easy.
And then the other thing, okay, so I was going here. I did make notes. Oh, so the part about the mom saying silence is golden, etc., yada yada. My dad is the opposite. He's an entrepreneur and he's a don't ask, don't get kind of guy. So that's kind of where I have my personality of like, like even when I saw Jade at whatever event, I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Jay Atkins. I gotta talk to that guy, right?" Because he comes from the company I came from. So it's like, I want to meet him. And we have a friend by default that it's kind of like, I just want to meet him and Jimena. So I went up to them, totally random. I think I rudely interrupted a conversation they were in too, because I was so fanning out on them. But when we go to like say company conferences, like we pay a lot of money to go to them. And what I've noticed with friends of mine is they just stick together. They don't go and meet other people. And I don't know, I think most of the people here were in Destin. And for me, it was like, because I'm in Canada, because Canada's so restricted, I wanted to meet people like Ron and hear your story and meet Lola and like, and just hear the real stories from people. Because of course we all know there's a lot of, misinformation online or whatever. So I wanted to meet real people. So I went out there purposely to meet other people. Let me see what else. Oh, the other factoid here was the biggest social fear in America was public speaking. And then, but the second one, which surprised me, is it's the fear of starting a conversation with a stranger. That kind of blew me away. And so if you have that attitude, if you know that most people are scared to talk to you, have fun with it and just say hi to them, right? Because I have found that when I do that, going, "Hey, how's it going?" Right? They're usually, and I'm kind of goofy that it breaks the ice of like, I'm okay with looking stupider by starting a conversation. If you feel that uncomfortable, I'll do that. And I find that it breaks the wall down with people almost immediately. Um, like, and the key words, like when you're asking open-ended questions, like "tell me about blah blah," or "how did you whatever," or "what did you blah blah," like not yes or no questions. The other thing that, like you said, Lola, was learning names. I'm not good at names. Like really, it kind of, you tell me your name and it's just like, you just told me your name, like completely blank, right? So what I do is I get them to spell it out. Like, because I'm visual, I'll say, I'm ADHD and I'm a visual learner. Can you spell your name for me? And I'll really slow it down for a half second. And that has helped me. And then the other thing that she said was, and if you do forget their name, never ever fake it. Like you actually just call them and say like, "Hey, I'm actually sorry, I completely forgot your name, right? Can you just tell me how to say your name again, or if the foreign unusual names get usually kind of slighted, she said. So take your time and learn their names. Offer your name when you're in that conversation. When you see somebody, you should whatever, like, hey. I like the advice of looking for the approachable person. Scan the room and choose wisely is my thing. And then I also liked her saying, like, if you've seen somebody that you want to talk to, but you haven't had a chance, you could say, like, hey, I've seen you a few times. Like, tell me, like, let's talk or whatever, right? And then the last thing she said that I liked that I want to do with my team members is, like, when you're doing a team call or something, is everybody introduce yourself and then tell us why you came here. So then people kind of just break down the walls and they can get a little bit more, conversation amongst themselves going. That's my takeaway for the first 77 pages or so.
That's why I like name tags, not to like,
Me
cheat
too.
to help me find the names or whatever. But if I see it written down somewhere, I'll remember it better. Like that's the guy, some guy I met yesterday. He had the name tag the whole time, but I never got to see it. He said his name, but I walked away. My head was everywhere. But then I came back. I'm like, "What's your name?" He tells me the name. I look at him, but then I still look down at his name tag. He probably thought it was weird. But it was just like my way of remembering. Like, oh, I'm gonna remember his name for now for sure.
Yeah, I like name tags too. I'm always pushing for name tags at parties and then put the little icebreaker on the bottom, like, what is your favorite whatever? And then it does help people
Yeah.
chat about silly stuff.
Well, and
So,
one other thing, quick story here, as far as, and we'll let Jay take it home on this one here, but I crack up with all the small talk conversation is like, we literally have small talk that one of my best friends met his wife because of it. Long story short, it was, we go down every year, meet up with a bunch of friends in Anchorage, we go out for this big dinner. It was one of Crystal's first years when we'd gotten together. She didn't know really anybody else in there. So after dinner, we go down to this bar. Long story short, she keeps overhearing these girls behind us talking about, like, oh, look at that guy over there. He's so cute in his red hat. Oh, do I go talk to him? I don't know. And she interjects herself into the conversation, like, just go talk to the guy in the red hat, which I hear and I'm like, here's my friend in the blue hat right here. Long she takes it, brings the guy over. His small talk conversation was just like, yes, I'm from a prominent family in Wasilla, which is like, that's nothing. So congratulations. Immediately, this Lindsay realizes, like, okay, they end up hitting it up. She does talk to my friend in a blue hat. They've now been married for about 10 years, have 2 kids. We're gonna go visit them in a couple weeks. Like, it's small talk can change lives.
That's so cute.
so I like this book. First let me start off with Lola. When I interviewed Lola, I was looking at her resume and I said, I have no idea how to say your name. And she said, Lola. And I was like, I can do that. And
No,
so,
he asked me. He's like, "Oh, what's your name again?" I'm like, "Loida." And he's like, "Do you have a nickname or something?" And I'm like,
and
"Lola."
it took me 3 years to remember how to spell her last name. So, um, so, I mean, she's Lola Vania. She's not Loeda, which I don't even think I even say it right still to this day, 9 years later. Is it Loeda? How do you?
It's Loida.
Loida. See, so I like this book. I mean, I would say I'm probably a pro of small talk. This is definitely something that I've been doing for a long time. I teach it, leaving people with themselves. I mean, she doesn't say that in this book, but that's what I do is, she talks about making people feel comfortable, and how you make people feel comfortable is letting them talk about themselves and asking them questions. The only thing that I didn't love about the book so far is I didn't love some of the questions that she asked. As I read the questions, I was just like, that is not a question I would ever ask of somebody. So I just feel like some of the questions that she wanted, a lot of questions that she was digging for questions that not most people would answer. But I feel like it's a great guide for people that are not an extrovert like me. The other thing that I do is, like, yesterday, there was a guy that used to be the president of the association. I was speaking at this luncheon yesterday, and we were having an issue with our computer, and I could just tell that he was a little perturbed. Like, I could feel people's energy, and he's just like, just the man, and always been the man in the room or whatever. And I know I have a presence, and so I'm always stepping lightly to make sure that people get to know me. And so whenever that happens, I always just make it um my destiny to make this person like me. no matter what, whatever their first impression or, whatever it is, like I just go above and beyond. And by the end, he's texting me yesterday and what a great talk. And thank you for the book and like all these things. And so that's what I always try to do when I sense someone is off in an energy. Like if they're in an elevator, I'm going to do my damnedest before that person gets out of my sphere for them to talk to me and connect with me and like me. Because again, I know for years I've had this thing. My friends have told me, great, has told me like, and I don't want to ever have that impression on anybody and to know that I am as down to earth, if not more down to earth. And I'm probably less serious than you are, because I love to have fun. I like to joke. And that's when people see me speak, I'm kind of serious and then I joke and I make people laugh. And it's like, that I think is what is important to do. And one of the things that I love that she said about the name though, is she said, extend your hand and just offer your name first. Hey, or just saying your name so that you let people off the hook. I'm really bad with names, and I like the tip that she gave in here, like how to say it a couple times. I just need to work on that because, when I meet someone, there's just so many things going through my head, about that conversation or what they're talking about. Because I'm always thinking about how can I connect with it. Like, the guy that I felt off yesterday. He was an insurance adjuster. He was a builder. He had a DJ, right? All three of those things have been in my sphere at some point in my life, right? So I was able to connect with him on all three spheres and have a conversation with him about that. And then yesterday, before I spoke, like I wanted to go around and just meet people. And what I did, because it was a business event, my question that I asked him, first question was, "Hey, tell me about your business." Um, and I think that's one of the things that she advised in here. But the other thing I always do is I always ask people what they do for a living, but it's because of the questions that I follow up with, right? What do they love about it? What do they hate about it? It's just a question that has with identity. So I like the book. Like I said, the only thing I don't like is I didn't like some of the questions that that she has in the book, because I just feel like those are not really um, good questions, or that I would ever ask those questions. So, and then I love what she said in here. If you genuinely wait for someone else to take the initiative in a conversation, you have been self-centered, and it's true. You have allowed your own comfort to take precedent over every other person's in the elevator, Justin. So that is just, I think that's a very profound statement that she made. Not to call you out, Justin, I'm just playing with you, but I think it's a very profound statement that she's making, because if you think about you being self-centered, and also what Chris just said, like you never know who you're going to meet, and maybe it's not a relationship that could change your life forever, from one conversation or an eventual great friendship that comes out of it. And that's what I've always thought about. Like, when I've met people, I'm like, you know what? I mean, 6 degrees of separation, there could have been a very good chance that I could have ignored this person, or, walked by this person and on a plane, when, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to just work. And then someone sparks up a conversation that turns into something else. So I think this is great for everyone, because I feel like a lot of people struggle with getting in that conversation because they just don't know what to say. So I think this is a great book, and I think it's a great book for what a lot of us do in business. I think it's, I see Lola. Describes herself to a T, and she's had to get out of her comfort zone. And the crazy thing about Lola is she's so good when she's out of her comfort zone with dealing with people and stuff like that. People love her, right? It's just not something she loves to do, but she's really, really good at it. And she does represent me very, very well. And people really, really love interacting with her, and she can get shit done. It's just not something she's drawn to, but it is one of her superpowers, that she has, that she doesn't realize that she has, I think sometimes, because it's just this she's just not it's just not something she's super comfortable with. But I'm glad that my team is reading this with me, and I'm glad you guys are reading this book, because I mean, I would say Chris is probably a semi-pro or a pro at this as well. He's very, very good at small talk. That's how him and I met. Like he came up and asked me a bunch of questions, and like, so he's very good at this as well. But we can always get better. But I think what I think the biggest thing with this book club that we should be thinking about doing is how can we improve other people's lives? So the people in our life that are not great at small talk, are struggling in their business, just suggesting this book and saying, hey, this is a great book, to be able to take your business to the next level. And so I think that's how we can give back to people that, Chris, that's really good at it. Crystal, I've had a lot of interaction with Crystal, and Crystal she definitely is a sit back and, study the person and like get to know them. Like, I know Chris really well, but Crystal was taking a little time, like I connected with her in Nashville, so there's these times, but, Crystal is very good at what she does, but, you and Chris are completely different, as far as in from the outside, right? I mean, you'll talk to anybody and Crystal, like, she's going to take a minute to warm up and like feel you out and get to know you. So it's like this book is good for everybody because you can just add little things to what you're doing, or Crystal's talent that she has already to connect with human beings, but connect with them on a great level. So that's what I love about this book. And
Well,
again,
that's
the only
what
thing
I was just gonna say. Do you like? I distinctly remember the first time you and I actually ever had a conversation. It's funny as we're reading this book and I'm thinking back to it. I remember actually the first time I ever saw you in person. So we're going back to the old Allstate days.
yeah,
And this was when the ASA platform was in full swing. And I remember the first time I ever saw you in person was when we were over in Ireland.
yep,
We were at
mansion,
it was the first time I remember seeing was that Christina Aguilera concert for that
yep,
reception or whatever they had there.
yep, 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 yep.
That was going on. You were talking with Jeremy Olson at a table right next to me. And I remember I knew Jeremy at the time, but I didn't actually know you in person. And I was afraid to go and just say hello. Like,
It's
again, this
so
is how
crazy.
far things have come. That's remember the first time I saw you. Flash forward another year. I remember the first time we ever actually had a conversation. Ironically, as we're talking about elevators, was in the Westin LA airport at the ASA event.
Yeah, remember that.
We had just gotten on the elevator. We're going up to her room. Next floor dings. You and Jimena walk on. To your credit, you're consistent. Oh, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. Asked her. Oh, you got a juice bar. Oh, yeah, I don't like juice. Like, I've tried it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember just small talk conversation through that. And then we actually got to really connect. Like, I remember that at Danelle's
Yeah,
at
Danelle's. Yep,
that one there. And then it went from there. But
yep.
to the point of this book, I look at there's a whole year that had using some of these tools a year prior could have got to know you better and it wouldn't have been like so just that whole but you never know who's going to come in. Don't be afraid to have those conversations. And I'm just cracking up like as I was just flashing back going down memory lane through this book specifically with people in here where it's like yeah that's crazy like
That would have been something to see you two at a Christina Aguilera concert
that all state rolled her out for us. Like I actually enjoyed the Irish dancers and drummers.
in
Like I thought
Ireland.
that was going to be the show. Like as they're rolling out, that was the opening for Christina, and it was like she was good, but it was like, all right, fine. Like I thought
She
that was
was
way
she was
cool.
phenomenal. She is super talented.
She
She's
is
got
very
one of the
talented.
best voices in the industry. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because yesterday, like, the lady that said, "Hey, you could show up at like 12:15. You don't need to be here at 11 because you're gonna eat." And I told my wife was like, "No," she called me. She's like, "We don't have to be there until 12:15." And I was like, I need to meet people in the room first. I need to make sure everything is set up. Like, I don't want to just like come out and it's like, I wanted to have an interaction with people, and it's strange. It's so strange for people because they're not used to it. I literally went around to every table and was like, hello, and, tell me about your business. And like, so people were just kind of taken back because they're sitting there in their world. They have a business they're trying to build. They're at a networking event, but they're in their cliques, eating their lunch, talking to the same people that they work with and that they hang out with every time. And then here comes this guy like, hey, what's your name? But tell me about your business, and it's just like, you can see this like stunned look on their face. They're like, uh, uh, yeah, I'm a mosquito defense business. I have a day spa that we do GLP-1s. And so, and then it's just engaging those people in the conversation. And by the end, like when I get up, there's a connection, right? It's not like, who's this guy? Who is that? And then, now people are giving me business cards. So it's just, again, the small talk is just, it's not comfortable, but if you do it, it becomes easy. And I would just like whatever questions you liked in the book, I would just jot those down and that be your entry point to whoever you're going to talk to, right? Even if people are in the chair, like if you're talking about wellness or if you're talking about whatever you want to talk about, insurance, like getting around to, you know, getting people to ask you what you do, but leave people with themselves. And that's small talk, right? If you leave people with themselves, they like you, they trust you, and then they'll listen to you. And that's the key to this in business. And so this is a great business book. I mean, who's going to buy from you? People that like and trust you, and then people that are going to listen to you. So once you build that like and trust, then they're going to listen if you listen. But most people are just waiting to respond, right? Like you said, you forget their name because it's like, oh, I want to launch into my response. I want to launch into what I do. I want to launch into, and that's the mistake. Instead of just listening what people do, then the rest will happen. So I'm glad
So
we're
to
on this
that
journey.
standpoint, I'm going to say this really quick here too, because Rhonda, we have not met you. I have not. Maybe you know some of these other fine folks from this, but how did you hear about book club? Welcome to the party.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I heard about book club from Arlene. I work with Arlene. I'm in Vancouver, and she suggested I join. So I just got back from Mexico, so I haven't yet had a chance to read about the book, to read the book, excuse me. So I'll get caught up on that. But I thought, you know what? What's the point of waiting? I'm just going to jump in today and see what
That's
I
great.
can learn. And if I may just add a few thoughts to everything that I've heard here. One of the things that I find is that, at least it's really important with me, is sometimes people just want to be acknowledged. And sometimes, whether it's just the little hi or the nod of the head, depending on the situation, whether it is on the elevator or you walk in a room, I just think it's important to acknowledge people. That may lead to conversation, or as I believe it was Justin was saying, that they give us sort of clues as to whether they want to continue the conversation or whether they don't. But I just try really hard. You go to the grocery store, you're interacting with a cashier. If you're interacting with a cashier, most of the time, let's face it, I'm in my own world. I'm doing my groceries. I just want to get the heck out of here. Like I'm running around doing whatever. But to really say, and actually, this is something I've learned from Arlene, is really just to say, hi, like, how's it going today? I think people sometimes really appreciate just being acknowledged, because our heads are down on our phones, we're doing whatever, and that's really the way that we make connections. So yeah, I'm gonna look forward to reading the book, getting caught up, and thank you. Joining the group as often as I can.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Great day. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, nice to meet y'all. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.